This seems to be a heated discussion between men and women, especially in the so-called black community, when you say that women cannot raise a boy to be a man. I used to say that same thing, and to a certain degree, she can't. But then the more I thought about it, and the more I saw the results of single-parent homes where mothers raise their sons to be men. And a lot of these men, many of the so-called men that say that women can't raise boys to be a man, are fans of these boys as a result of a single-parent home. You take, for example, basketball and football players, a lot of the rap artists, a lot of the music we listen to in the so-called black community was created by men that was raised in a single-parent home. There is one thing that irks me the most, is the majority of these guys that you hear that say women can't raise boys to be men are some of the same males that run out on their kids, that was not in the home with their children, that don't know their children, or their children don't respect them because they never grew up in the house with their fathers. But I want to question a lot of these men, and this is open for discussion. I have a question for a lot of these men that claim that women can't raise boys to be men. What can men do that women can't do? I want you to explain to me, what exactly does it take to raise a boy to be a man? And I want you to draw from your own personal experience. Now, if you don't have children, or you never raised children in the same house, if you are not taking care of your child, if you are on child support and made to take care of your kids, you really don't have a voice to speak, because that is not a good example of what it takes to be a man. Running out on your children is not an example of what it takes to be a man. Being forced to pay child support is not a good example of what it takes to be a man. So what would it take for a young boy to be a man? What can you do that a mother can't do? As long as she teaches him the right thing. And it goes back to that last video I made about right and wrong. It's all about making the right and wrong choices and decisions. The mother could teach their sons how to treat women, not because of what she says to him, but by example. Because children learn by example. I'll repeat that. Children learn by example. They learn by what they see. So even if there is a man in the house, even if the father is in the house and they raise their sons, or their sons grew up with them, that son can still grow up to be less than a man, not knowing how to treat a woman, not knowing how to fix things around the house. He could grow up lazy. He could grow up not employed and don't want to work or have no career, because the father that was in the home was the one that set the example for the son. So that son grows up thinking that that's what manhood is about: being emotional, disrespecting his woman, playing video games all day, borrowing money from the woman. And many dudes do that. They borrow money from their women. And they have no shame in their game because they do it in front of their children. And if you have young girls that you're raising, what can you tell your daughters that you're not doing yourself regarding men? Of course, it's easy to say, stay away from them boys, leave them boys alone, and you try to instill fear in the little boys that come and see your daughter, but your daughter sees you. She knows that you leave the house a certain time at night and you're not going to work. She knows that she hears you and her mom arguing, maybe about another woman that you're seeing. And your son see that as well. So how do you think your son is going to grow up with you in the home being less than a man? And I hear it so often, man. Grown men are crying, especially on paternity court. And they always come back and say, I didn't grow up with my father. I don't know who my father is. So these guys are lacking their dads. The only thing they know is what they learned from their moms. But can a woman raise a boy to be a man? I say yes. I know a woman personally that is a single parent mom. She was raising 3 sons and a daughter. What she did was she had her sons read the book of Proverbs. And she just didn't have them read it, but yet she instructed them from that book. She taught them, they knew how to quote Proverbs because she became their teacher at home. And when those young men grew up, they grew up as men, not getting into trouble, not joining gangs, not selling drugs, not going back and forth to prison or in jail. But they grew up self-sufficient. They went to college. They started their own businesses, and one worked for corporate America, and they're doing quite well. And now they have their families and raising their sons and daughters the way their mom raised them. But what makes this woman so unique? Why was she able to do what many other women fail at doing? She kept her emotions out of the way. I repeat that. She kept her emotions out of the way. And whatever struggles or issues that she had with their father, she never made that a part of raising her sons and her daughter. She never reminded them that they look like the father or they act like the father and their father was no good. She never did that. She never put down the father to her children. But she grabbed a hold of that plow. And without emotions, and that's a very important key, without emotions, she instructed her sons. She disciplined her sons when necessary, because disciplining them is not always putting your hands on them. That's not what discipline is about. When they came home from school, the first thing they had to do was their homework. Then they had to do their chores. And then they were able to go out and play. They got their sons involved in activities in school and even outside of school. Either they were in martial arts, they boxed. So she did things that boys were known to do. She had them take out the trash for chores, had them cut the grass, had them rake leaves, and every now and then they had to bust a sud. They had to wash dishes. But when they got into sports, be it football or basketball, she was at every one of their games. She was cheering them on. And she actually became a helper. She would help out with these kids when they had like the little what do they call them? These little, like the valley here, they have these little kids that play football, these little boys, and they had the moms come out there, and it was funny. I had my camera and I was just video recording and taking pictures, and you had the women out there in the same colors that their sons were wearing, same uniform, and they were cheering their sons on. They was out there like, just the same thing dads do. That's what these moms were doing. And guess what? These women were not masculine. These women were not manly. They carried themselves as ladies. And that's a word that we really don't hear too often, is a lady. There's women, there's females, but we never really hear about the lady. She carried herself as a lady. She dressed as a lady. She spoke as a lady. But at the end of the day, she was a mom. Better yet, she was a parent. She was a single parent mom, and she was very careful who she allowed around her kids. So she didn't, from what little bit I know of her, she didn't have different men running in and out of her house. She didn't want the grandparent to watch the child while she go out to clubs. She didn't do that. She did things with her kids. Her fun and excitement was with her kids. She went to the movies with her children. The arcade, she was there with her children. Roller skating, she was there with her children. And she had fun with her children. So she was being the example that the man would have been had he been in the house. And when those young boys grew up, they grew up to be well-productive men. Now, I know cases where the man was in the house, and these boys ended up in the street, they ended up dead, they ended up in jail, or they ended up as bums. Because that was the example that the father set for them. He was in and out of prison. He was selling drugs from his home, putting his family at risk, putting his family in danger, because people that he owed money to came a knocking on the door, looking for him. Tell your daddy I came by. Tell him I'm looking for him. This is what these guys said to the little child, his children, when they opened the door. So for these dudes out there And usually it's the ones that are not in their children's lives are the ones that are quick to yell out, women can't raise a boy to be a man. I know men, single parent dads, that raise both sons and daughters to be well productive citizens. One of my best friends, Dave, he had a daughter and a son. Whenever we went to the skating ring, it was me, Dave, his kids, and we had some other friends, and I took like my sons, and we was at the skating ring, and they went out there skate. They was having a good time. But yet now his daughter and his son are both adults. They went to college. They're doing well for themselves. And they did it without the mother. The mother had drug issues. The same story that we hear about the fathers in the home that grow up not in their children's home. So can a woman raise a boy to be a man? Yes, she can, but under conditions. She can't allow her emotions to get in the way. She can't allow her emotions, her battle with the father, to get in the way. She has to be stern, not their friends, because you're not there to be liked. But you're there to set an example. And the example that she set is the example that these kids have to grow up by. Because when it comes to doing right and wrong, there's no gender. There is no gender in doing right or wrong. Right is right and wrong is wrong. So comment, tell me your thoughts and ideas. And fellas, before you attack and talk about how a woman don't have what it takes to be a man or to raise a son to be a man, well, tell me what it takes. Tell me what you would do, you personally. Tell me what you would do different to raise a son to be a man. Tell me what you've done. Tell me about your proven track record. And where are your children now? So feedback, tell me what you think, subscribe. Until next time, I'm fearless.